In the year 211 AD, inside a merchant's residence in Alexandria, Egypt, a grain trader named Tommy Alexandros, 48 years old, looks over a life's work that has taken 2 decades to build. He is not among the richest men in Alexandria. Many possess greater wealth. What he has achieved is something else: stability, security, a home in a desirable neighborhood, a trading business that functions reliably, and a chest filled with denarii, silver coins accepted and trusted throughout the empire. Those coins represent 30 years of disciplined saving. What Tommy does not realize is that the value stored in that chest is about to be erased, not through theft, not through misplacement, through a process that unfolds slowly, administered officially, and disguised so effectively as routine monetary policy that by the time ordinary citizens understand what has happened, most of the damage has already occurred. The new emperor, Caracalla, requires additional revenue. He has pledged a 50% increase in military pay to secure support from the army. He is also committed to grain distributions, construction programs, and public entertainments. The Treasury cannot finance all of these promises using existing income. His answer is remarkably straightforward. He instructs the mint to issue a new coin known as the Antoninianus. Its appearance suggests a coin worth 2 denarii. Officially, that is exactly how it is valued. Yet the silver contained inside equals only about 1.5 denarii. Tommy receives one of these new coins as payment for a shipment of grain. Nothing appears unusual. The coin looks legitimate. He places it into the same chest as his denarii. Without realizing it, he now possesses 2 forms of money. One reflects actual silver content. The other represents an official promise of silver that has not truly been deposited by the mint. 60 years later, by 270 AD, Tommy's grandson will be conducting business with bronze coins coated in such a thin layer of silver that the surface can wear away under a person's fingers. 3 generations of careful savings will have been quietly, officially, and completely redirected from merchants into the hands of the imperial treasury. China is not governing an empire, yet the mechanism at work is the same, and exposure to it reaches savings in ways that very few people are currently discussing. The reason Roman debasement remained effective for so long was that it operated beneath the surface of ordinary economic activity. No announcement declared that the denarius had lost value. Coins continued to circulate. Trade continued. The empire continued to function. The change was not visible within any single transaction. Instead, the proportion of genuine silver relative to the coin's stated value declined steadily, year after year, ruler after ruler. Every new issue contained slightly less silver than the previous one. Those who protected their wealth during this period were the people who exchanged their denarii for assets beyond the reach of monetary debasement. Land, physical property, foreign precious metals, anything possessing intrinsic worth outside the official currency structure. Those who suffered the greatest losses were the people who trusted the monetary framework and kept their savings in the form it encouraged them to hold: coins. Tommy Alexandros was not ruined because of poor business judgment. He was not ruined because of a failed investment. He was ruined through a systematic and official transfer of savings to the state, carried out through the monetary system itself. The process was invisible when viewed transaction by transaction. In aggregate, it was devastating. Now consider China. It is important to identify exactly which version of the Roman mechanism is operating because it is not the one most observers point to when evaluating Chinese monetary policy. China is not devaluing its currency in the conventional sense. The renminbi has not collapsed. The People's Bank of China is not operating printing presses at Venezuelan levels. On the surface, Chinese monetary management appears disciplined and conventional. The mechanism functioning underneath that surface is something different from overt currency debasement. What is happening is far closer to the original Roman model, not the stage when debasement became obvious, but the earlier phase when everything still moved through official institutions and appeared to be standard monetary administration. Household wealth in China is concentrated in 3 primary categories. Bank deposits account for the largest share. Real estate represents roughly 70% of Chinese household net worth. The remainder consists of renminbi-denominated financial assets. Each of these depends on, or is priced through, the official financial structure, and each is exposed to the mechanism currently in operation. Begin with property. According to various estimates, the typical urban family in China has devoted between 30 and 40 years of income to purchasing residential housing. For most households, it is the largest financial commitment they have ever undertaken. Since 2021, residential property in major markets has declined by between 20% and 30% from its peak value. Meanwhile, 20 million apartments have been fully paid for on paper, but have never materialized in brick and concrete. The families who purchased them continue making mortgage payments. The developers who collected the money have defaulted. The difference between what households paid and what they ultimately received represents a transfer of savings into a failed enterprise through the official real estate system. This is Tommy Alexandros' chest. Real savings were placed inside. Something very different emerged afterward. Now consider the banking channel. This is the aspect that remains largely absent from discussions outside China's banking industry. Chinese households currently hold approximately $16 trillion in bank deposits. Those funds are kept within banks whose lending portfolios may be far weaker than official statistics indicate. Officially, the non-performing loan ratio within Chinese banks stands at approximately 1.6%. Independent assessments using consistent classification methods estimate the actual figure at between 8% and 20%. The distance between 1.6% and 8 to 20% is not a minor statistical difference. It reflects tens of trillions of renminbi in loans that are not being repaid at the level reported on bank balance sheets. Those loans remain recorded at full value. If they were priced according to market reality, a substantial segment of China's banking system would require recapitalization. That recapitalization could come from the government, eventually placing the burden on taxpayers, or it could come from deposits, placing the burden on savers. Neither path is being openly proposed. Instead, the banks continue operating. The troubled loans remain listed at values that do not reflect reality. Deposits continue to be presented as secure. This is where the comparison becomes critical. Tommy Alexandros did not lose his wealth through a single transaction. His coins were diluted. Their purchasing power was redirected to the state through a process that resembled ordinary monetary management. It occurred through official institutions using official tools. The mechanism was not invisible because it was concealed. It was difficult to see because it functioned inside the same system where ordinary people stored their savings. Chinese depositors occupy a structurally similar position. Their savings exist within a financial framework whose actual condition differs substantially from its officially reported condition. That gap is being managed through a mechanism comparable to the one employed by the Roman mint. The change is not made by altering the face value of the currency. It is made by altering what stands behind that currency. Now comes the capital control element that completes the structure and explains why savings everywhere may be affected by China's next move. Tommy Alexandros could not simply leave Alexandria. He could not relocate his savings to Rome or Carthage and place them within a monetary system untouched by debasement. He remained inside the Roman financial system. And within that system is where his savings stayed. Chinese households face a structurally similar form of containment. Capital controls restrict how easily ordinary Chinese savers can move wealth beyond the renminbi system. These restrictions are not total. Individuals with significant wealth and strong connections often have ways to transfer assets abroad. For the 300 million Chinese middle-class families whose savings exist primarily in the three categories already described, bank deposits, property, and renminbi, denominated assets, the limitation is effectively complete. This matters regardless of where you keep your own savings. China is the world's second largest economy. It is also the largest trading nation on Earth. A mechanism operating within China's financial structure does not remain confined within China's borders. Its effects spread through global supply chains. They move through commodity markets. They extend through capital flows involving institutions that hold Chinese assets. They also pass through the broader international financial network whose stability depends in part on China's economic performance. As Roman currency debasement intensified during the 3rd century AD, the consequences did not remain isolated within the Roman economy. Trade systems across North Africa, the Middle East, and Europe experienced disruption because they had been built around confidence in stable Roman coinage. Merchants in Alexandria, Carthage, and Antioch had no direct connection to the Roman treasury. Even so, the commercial environment around them deteriorated as the value of the currency they relied upon declined. A comparable transmission effect from China's financial system reaches every economy connected to Chinese supply chains. It affects commodity exporters dependent on Chinese demand. It also reaches financial organizations with holdings linked to Chinese assets. That group includes many of the world's largest financial institutions. Now consider what happened to ordinary Romans. The comparison is not primarily about forecasting political collapse. It is about the protection of savings. The Roman Empire did not disappear in 211 AD. It continued to exist for another 2.5 centuries. The debasement initiated by Caracalla did not trigger immediate disaster. Instead, it created a gradual transfer of wealth across multiple generations. Resources moved from merchants and the middle class toward the imperial government. The process occurred through the monetary system itself. No single transaction revealed the full impact. Yet over time, the cumulative effect became impossible to reverse. Those who suffered losses were not ruined overnight. The damage unfolded slowly. It happened through the normal routine of conducting business inside a monetary structure whose value was eroding more rapidly than prices could adjust. By the time the process became obvious to everyone, by the time merchants in Egypt began rejecting Roman coins and demanding payment through goods instead, 3 generations of accumulated savings had already changed hands. China's mechanism is not at the stage represented by 270 AD. It more closely resembles the conditions of 211 AD. The official framework is still operating. Deposits continue to be honored. The stated value of the currency remains unchanged. The process has been underway for 5 years, since 2021. That timeline roughly matches the point at which Roman debasement became visible to sophisticated observers, while remaining largely unnoticed by ordinary savers. The lesson from 211 AD is not about predicting the exact moment a system fails. The lesson is understanding what such a mechanism can do to savings that remain within it. It is about recognizing the consequences for asset placement before those consequences become obvious. Tommy Alexandros never had the opportunity to make those decisions. No one explained the mechanism to him in 211 AD. Tommy Alexandros was not ruined because of a single event. He was trapped within the Roman monetary structure and had no practical way out. Chinese middle-class families occupy a comparable structural position inside a system whose actual condition differs from its officially presented condition, while capital controls restrict available exits. The question remains the same. What is the modern equivalent of exchanging denarii for land? Is that option available to ordinary savers, or only to the wealthy? If you found this analysis valuable, share your perspective and continue following the discussion as the story develops.